Guys, listen, extraordinary event, because only 31 brave and barely elite Ukrainian soldiers were able to liberate the entire settlement, which basically means that the Russian defenses once again proved themselves to be completely useless, and now Russians facing a complicated decision. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get right to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. So, we have this guy, Vladimir Saldo, the infiltrator in Kherson region, the one who is relatively approved by Putin, and so he is doing his elections campaign, and one of the posters which were seen in Kherson region outside were saying, "Vote for Vladimir Saldo, the only worthy candidate who is still alive." And I kid you not, this is exactly how it's written, with the biggest accent on the word "still alive." And just imagine, this guy traded his respect of his family, relatives and friends just to be seen as a potentially good guy in the eyes of Putin, who will not even think twice to replace him in case something goes bad. Pretty questionable trade if you ask me. So just let me know in the comments if you will accept this trade. And if you will not, can you please like this video and subscribe to my channel, just to see how many of us regular good thinking people are in this Russian dude community. You can also follow me on Instagram to see how I live outside of YouTube, the link is down below. But pretty much yes, some people don't care, looks like, at all about their history and heritage. Well, I do. I want to be a worthy successor and bearer of my name in the eyes of my ancestors and all the future generations. I want to be remembered by them and hopefully be proud of me. And that is why I partnered with a #1 family history service called MyHeritage, which is trusted by more than 90 million people. And here is, for example, my very own family tree, my parents, grandparents, siblings, cousins, uncles and aunts, but it does not end here. You can always add way more people, such as for example your spouses and their own very own families, kids of your cousins, and of course great-grandparents. And it is done by simply clicking this plus button, then all you need to do is to input their first name, and that's pretty much it. You can also obviously add some more photos. All you need to do is to click this photo sign, select the picture you want to add, rescale it if you want, and pretty much that's it. But what if you only have a low quality black and white or this like sepia kind of pictures of your grandparents? Well, MyHeritage got you covered here as well, and to be honest, this is my personal favorite feature. Just upload the old photo, click enhance and colorize, and just look at the result. This is absolutely mind-blowing and incredible. It even looks like that my grandfather now can have his very own Instagram page. And just yet another absolutely incredible feature is that you can animate every single one of these photos. But then you might ask, does MyHeritage help you find your own relatives? And the answer is yes. Just click on any person of interest, then click this research this person, and MyHeritage provides you the access to more than 19 billion records. You are almost guaranteed to find something. And so, if you're excited as I am to build your very own family tree and discover long-lost relatives who lived probably centuries ago, just please go ahead and use my link down below. And the best part about it is that MyHeritage gives you a completely free 14 days access. And then, if you decide to continue, there will be a 50% discount for you to continue your subscription. Just make sure to use my link down below and apply the code TheRussianDude. Thank you so much MyHeritage for sponsoring this video, and now back to the program. Right, now let's go straight to Russia, which has been under a massive attack this last night, and then we'll talk about quick updates from the east and the south of Ukraine. And first of all, in Pskov, local residents were able to hear several extremely loud noises coming from the local military base and airfield. And apparently several, up to 4 or even 5 Russian planes, such as Il-76, were either completely destroyed or severely damaged. And I mean, Pskov is relatively far from Ukraine. That is why just thinking about that these were Ukrainian drones behind this attack, it is, to be honest, at first it sounds like nonsense. But then you think about it even more. Well, you already know that the Russian air defense is pretty inferior, and in case Ukrainian drones will be flying on the low altitude, they will most likely not even be noticed by the Russian raiders. And as for now, this is exactly the main idea how this attack was able to be carried. But this was not the only one. There was also some very loud noises reported from Bryansk, and then allegedly Russians said that they were able to intercept every single drone by Ukrainians. But then somehow, mysteriously, and very suspiciously conveniently, the debris of this drone fell on one of the Russian factory, which was producing microchips, including the ones used in the military. Moving closer to the capital of Russia, Moscow, to the city called Tula, there are also some loud noises reported by locals. And just overall, on this map you can see all the recorded strikes against the territory of Russia during last night. And well, there was response by Russians. They launched their own drones and missiles against the territory of Ukraine, such as for example also against its capital, Kiev. And as a result of this, a local supermarket, Ashan, was severely damaged. Unfortunately, there are 2 casualties. But because Kiev has one of the most advanced air defense system, they were able to intercept all 28 out of 28 Russian missiles and 15 out of 16 drones. But okay, and now as promised, let's go to the east of Ukraine and talk about some quick updates from this region before going to the south. And so first of all, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Russians and Ukrainians continue to attack each other along Kupiansk-Svatove Crimean front line, with neither of the sides advancing. Then as we go to Bakhmut, in this case it was already luck on the side of Ukrainians, because they were able to advance a little bit closer to this city. We even have this video from allegedly the eastern front lines, which shows the work of the western mercenaries in Ukraine. They are attacking the Russian positions, and since these are actual, well-prepared and professional soldiers, they completely crushed the defenses of Russians and eliminated everyone who was hiding in the trenches. And I mean, just by description of this video you can already imagine that YouTube will not allow it. That is why if you want to see the full version, as always, it is on my Patreon, the link is down below, there is still 1 week of free access. Next we go back once again really quick to Crimea, where Ukrainians reportedly were able to destroy a Russian tank along with the assault group to the west of this city. And then right here is yet another example of Ukrainians proficiently using drones, not just destroying Russian military vehicles, but also destroying extremely effectively Russian infantry. Well, there you have it. Now let's go to the south of Ukraine, and soon we'll talk about the heroic actions of 31 barely elite Ukrainian soldiers. But first of all, we just have to make a stop next to Crimean Bridge, where Russians actually went ahead with their plan and they sank 7 ships next to this bridge, trying to protect it from marine drones. And I mean, the distance between these sunk vessels is pretty big, so I would say that every single marine drone will be able to go through them. Well, Russians thought about this as well, and they did something genius. They put a net next to these vessels in between them, trying to catch marine drones, almost like in a fishing net, I assume. And the location of these sunken ships is approximately right here, next to the car and train road, which is in the lowest point next to the water. Which basically means Russians just told Ukrainians where is the weakest spot of the Crimean Bridge. But okay, next we go to Zaporozhye region, where Russian infiltrators and collaborators, guarded and protected by Kadyrov Chechen soldiers, they decided to do some election campaigns, forcing people to vote for them. Well, obviously the local residents were not willing to do this, but Ukrainian forces, they pretty much strictly said them that, guys, you just should not do it. That is why they once again launched drones through the windows to target these collaborators. Another video from Zaporozhye region shows us the effective destruction by Ukrainians a Russian electronic warfare system called Zhitel. But wait, there is more, because as we move to Kherson, Ukrainians were also able to destroy a radar and a missile guidance system of Russians called Buk M3. In addition to that, as a result of a Ukrainian Operation HIMARS strike, they were able to destroy a Russian military base located in Sadovye. And if you remember from my yesterday's episode, when I was talking about that Ukrainians were able to cross next to Antonovsky Bridge and install their flag there, well, today, as you can see from this map, now this information is also confirmed. And finally, we see one of the very first, but not the last, blue area on the left side of Kherson region. As we refer once again to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, they highlighted the success of Ukrainians once again next to Robotyne, and they also mentioned that in response to that, Russians, instead of bringing reinforcements or changing their military tactics, they only expressed their concerns. Besides that, a small military base of Russians was destroyed by Ukrainians in Verbove. And just overall, Ukrainians are now increasing the pace of their counteroffensive and liberation towards Verbove, but it is still being slowed down a little bit by constant shelling from Russians. But nevertheless, the General Staff of Ukraine confirmed that Ukrainians, they do have partial success towards this direction and to the south of Robotyne, and that Ukrainians were also able to breach the line of defenses of Surovikin and this so-called Dragon Teeth that Russians spent several months erecting. But Ukrainians only spent less than pretty much couple of days walking through them, which just once again confirmed the complete uselessness of Russian defenses, not just in the south, at this point everywhere. And as of right now, it is estimated that Ukrainians are only 8 kilometers away from the last main line of defense of Russians in Zaporozhye region. And obviously, as soon as this one falls, the road to Tokmak, Melitopol and Berdyansk will be open. And if you remember, in the past, Russians were using this term, a gesture of goodwill or goodwill gesture whenever they are surrendering settlements. Well, right now it looks like that the Russian propagandists, they started calling it complicated events, which basically means after complicated events there will be complicated decisions. And well, according to the Russian infiltrator in Zaporozhye region Yevgeny Balitsky, he said that no, we do not confirm that Ukrainians breached our defenses and took back Robotyne, which, if you remember in the past, it is pretty much a direct confirmation that Ukrainians did exactly that. Because even this map, as you can see right here, shows a pretty good expansion of liberation in Verbove direction. But most importantly, and it only came to us recently, is that according to Dmitra Kuloba, only 31 brave and barely elite Ukrainian soldiers were responsible for liberating the entire Robotyne settlement. He basically said that in the past, Ukrainians were using larger groups of forces along with military vehicles and equipment, and this is exactly what Russians were expecting them to do. That is why they were repelling these attacks. So then, Ukrainians decided to switch the tactic, try to use way smaller forces, once again just 20-30 people, and send those people in their small raids, trying to maybe collect reconnaissance and intelligence, and at the same time maybe even sabotage Russians from the inside, create diversions and liberate areas if possible. So they assembled this group of 31, like mentioned previously, barely elite and not even that experienced soldiers, tasking them to try and to make liberation of Robotyne a little bit easier for the future Ukrainian forces. And apparently, besides just collecting the intelligence, they were able to liberate Robotyne, and then the reinforcements of Ukrainians, they came and make this liberation official, install the flag, and only from these 31 elite Ukrainian soldiers, only 7 of them were injured, 1 of them was heavily injured. There are no reported casualties, which just once again confirms the fact that such events might happen extremely unexpected. Because once again, if your enemy, they know exactly what you're about to do, or at least approximately, they will obviously prepare to repel your attack. That is why you have to surprise them. This is exactly what Ukrainians did, and now we see Robotyne being fully liberated. And by the way, guys, this Saturday I'm planning to release a very interesting, highly demanded, and maybe even a little bit controversial video. So if you don't want to miss it, just please consider subscribing to my channel. It only takes 1 click. Thank you so much MyHeritage for sponsoring this video. Please check my Patreon for additional footage. Thank you so much for your attention, товарищи. Please follow me on Instagram. Beware there are scammers in the comments, and see you tomorrow.